going to tell us a story. It's called The Legend of the Dogwood. Because it relates to Easter. I think it's a super fun story. It's a little bit different in that usually when we're at church, we talk about stories from the Bible, which are completely true. All the stories in the Bible are 100% true. They really happened. Jesus was a real person, and the Bible stories are about things that really happened a long time ago. So our story today is just a legend. A legend is a story that people make up to help explain or to tell about how something happened. And so legends are usually just make-believe. There we go. So our story begins almost 2,000 years ago in Israel. Remember, Israel is a real place. That is where Jesus lived and where the Israelites lived. And way back then, if you ventured into the forests of Israel at that time, you would have seen plenty of sturdy, strong oak trees and lofty cedar trees and walnut trees and more. All of them were very fine and noble trees, loved and used by carpenters. However, one tree was prized above all others, the mighty dogwood tree. Back then, as our story goes, the dogwood looked very different. It didn't have all of its pretty flowers, but it was still very impressive, and it was taller than any oak or cedar tree, and its wood was strong and hard and really easy to work with. It had no equal, and it was constantly in demand by all the carpenters, all the people who were building stuff. So during this time was when the people and the religious leaders demanded that Jesus die and so the Roman governor Pilate sentenced Jesus to die on a cross. And according to our story, the tree they used to make the cross was a mighty dogwood. Now, according to the legend, the dogwood felt very sorry for the role that it played in Jesus' death. While on the cross, Jesus knew the tree was sad, and he promised it would never again grow large enough to be made into a cross. And from that point on, the dogwood was no longer a big, strong, tall tree. Rather, it became a small, shrub-like tree with thin and twisted limbs. Now, as we know from the Bible, Jesus was taken down from the cross and he was placed in a tomb. 3 days later, he rose from the dead. We know that all is true. Our legend says that at the same time, the dogwoods in the forest burst into bloom, and they continue to do so around Easter in what is believed to be a celebration of Jesus' resurrection. While the dogwood tree never did make another cross, it's still said to carry the marks of Jesus' crucifixion. So it has 4 large petals, and they are in the shape of a cross, just like the cross that Jesus died on. And each petal displays a little red tinge. They look like nail holes. And so they have 4 little holes that look like nail holes that represent the nails that were in Jesus' hands and feet when he was nailed to the cross. And in the center is this greenish yellow cluster that looks really pokey. I'm going to move it closer to the camera. That looks really pokey, that kind of reminds us of the crown of thorns that was put on Jesus' head. Here you go, Bree. You want to hold it now? Okay. So most likely, the legend, the story, is not true. They probably didn't have dogwoods that lived in Israel in Jesus' time. But even if the legend isn't true, and it's just a fun pretend story, seeing the beauty of the dogwood tree every year around Easter time is still a pretty great way to help us remember the Bible's true story of Jesus' love and his sacrifice for us.